Nestled deep in the mountains of Tokushima Prefecture, Japan, lies Nagoro, a village that was once a modest but lively community. Surrounded by dense forests and narrow, winding roads, Nagoro thrived quietly for decades, home to a small population that maintained traditional rural lifestyles. The village's life was marked by close-knit bonds, local festivals, and generations of families living off the land. But today, Nagoro tells a very different story. What was once a village filled with the sounds of children playing and farmers tending fields has now become hauntingly silent. Houses stand empty, overgrown paths lead to forgotten homes, and the bustling small community has all but vanished. It is in this quiet stillness that Nagoro reveals the profound impact of Japan's ongoing demographic crisis. The village's rapid decline is a stark example of a national phenomenon, one rooted deeply in social and economic changes that have reshaped entire regions across Japan. Like many rural areas throughout the country, Nagoro has faced a shrinking population for decades. The factors driving this decline are complex and interconnected, but at their core is Japan's broader demographic crisis, characterized by an aging population and persistently low birth rates. Over the last half-century, Japan's population has been steadily aging, with a significant portion now over the age of 65. Younger generations increasingly gravitate toward urban centers in search of education, employment, and modern amenities, leaving behind elderly residents in villages like Nagoro. This slowly empties the countryside, resulting in fewer families, declining school enrollments, and the gradual loss of community life. Nagoro's plight is particularly poignant because it exemplifies how these demographic trends manifest in extremely remote and rural settings. At its peak, Nagoro had a population of around 300 people, enough to maintain small shops, schools, and community services. But as younger residents left and birth rates dropped, the village's population began a steady decline. In recent years, the number of residents has fallen to under 30 individuals, many of whom are elderly. With few people left to sustain daily activities and local institutions, Nagoro's infrastructure started to crumble, and its once lively streets turned quiet. The village's school closed, and the local shrine sees fewer visitors each year. What remains are empty houses and the memories of a community that once was. This decline is not just about numbers. It speaks to a broader cultural and societal shift within Japan. Rural villages like Nagoro are invisible to many city dwellers, yet their disappearance marks the loss of traditional ways of life and regional histories. The challenges Nagoro faces highlight the difficulties Japan encounters in balancing modernization with the preservation of its rural heartlands. Government efforts have tried to encourage people to return to or stay in these areas, but reversing demographic trends proves an uphill battle. Nagoro stands as a real and tangible symbol of Japan's demographic crisis, a place where the consequences of population decline are no longer abstract statistics, but visible in empty streets and shuttered homes. The story of Nagoro's depopulation is deeply entwined with the larger trends unfolding across rural Japan. Since the mid-20th century, countless villages have experienced a steady outflow of younger residents moving toward urban centers. Cities like Tokyo, Osaka, and Nagoya grew rapidly as hubs of economic opportunity, education, and modern conveniences. For many young people from Nagoro and similar villages, the decision to leave was often driven by the promise of stable jobs and a more vibrant lifestyle. Meanwhile, those who remained were predominantly older generations, tied to the land by lifelong connections and a sense of place. Japan's aging population is well documented. Currently, over 28% of the nation's population is 65 or older, one of the highest proportions worldwide. In Nagoro, this meant that the community gradually shifted toward becoming a village of mostly elderly residents. With younger families gone and birth rates declining sharply, the population continued to shrink steadily. The low birth rate problem in Japan has persisted for decades, ranked among the lowest globally, with women having fewer children on average than in past generations. This intensifies the depopulation cycle, as fewer children are born to replace the aging population. In Nagoro, this demographic shift was perhaps most visibly felt in the closure of its school, a poignant milestone symbolizing a lost generation. The absence of children echoed through the empty classrooms and silent playgrounds. Shops that once served families closed down as foot traffic dried up, and traditional seasonal festivals lost both participants and vibrancy. The village's infrastructure, built for hundreds, now served only a few. Faced with this quiet exodus, a unique and touching response emerged from one local resident, Ayano Tsukimi, an artist born and raised in Nagoro. As people left one by one, Ayano began creating life-size dolls to represent former residents, friends, and neighbors. These dolls, dressed in everyday clothes and positioned in familiar settings around the village, serve as stand-ins to preserve the memory of those who have departed. Some dolls sit on benches by the bus stop, others tend fields, or gather in groupings outside abandoned homes. Her initiative goes beyond art. It is a living memorial and a way to maintain a presence in a place otherwise fading away. Visitors to Nagoro now encounter a striking mix of human absence and doll-filled scenes, highlighting the emotional reality of depopulation. Ayano's work has attracted media attention and curious travelers, providing Nagoro with a fragile but meaningful link to the outside world. Nagoro's story reflects broader issues faced by rural areas across Japan. Government data shows that hundreds of small villages have either disappeared or are on the brink due to similar demographic pressures. Economic stagnation, limited healthcare access, and infrastructure challenges exacerbate the problem, making rural life less sustainable for younger generations. Efforts to revitalize these communities through subsidies, tourism, and remote work have had limited success, as the scale of the decline is monumental. Ultimately, Nagoro stands as a microcosm of Japan's rural demographic crisis, a place where aging, migration, and birth rates converge with cultural memory and resilience. Nagoro's near disappearance carries profound social and cultural consequences far beyond its quiet mountain setting. The village's decline underscores the fragility of rural communities struggling to sustain traditional lifestyles amid demographic and economic shifts. With so few residents left, social structures that once defined daily life, the shared duties, communal celebrations, and neighborly support, have all but vanished. The local school's closure not only marked the loss of education in the village, but also severed a vital space where relationships and traditions were passed to younger generations. In essence, Nagoro's fading population puts at risk the transmission of local histories, customs, and identities distinctive to many rural regions in Japan. This erosion reflects a larger nationwide challenge. As rural areas depopulate and age, economic activity slows dramatically. Small businesses close, farms become unsustainable, and infrastructure no longer receives necessary maintenance. The shrinking tax base strains local governments, making it increasingly difficult to provide essential services like healthcare, transportation, and social welfare. For many rural municipalities, this downward spiral threatens their very viability. Efforts to revitalize such communities have included promoting tourism, offering subsidies to attract young families, and encouraging remote work. Yet, the effectiveness of these strategies remains uncertain. Even with government initiatives, many villages continue to lose residents as older populations pass away and younger people stay in urban centers. The persistence of this pattern points to deep-rooted structural issues, including limited employment opportunities and changing social values that favor city life. Beyond economics, the cultural impact is profound. Rural Japan has long been the custodian of unique festivals, crafts, dialects, and ways of life that contribute to the nation's rich cultural tapestry. The disappearance of villages like Nagoro accelerates the loss of these intangible assets. When communities vanish, so too do the practices and stories that flourish through everyday interaction. In many ways, Nagoro functions as a stark, real-world illustration of Japan's demographic challenges, not an isolated curiosity or an artistic metaphor. Its transformation from a vibrant village to a near-ghost town makes visible the human dimension of statistical trends that otherwise might seem abstract. Aging populations, low birth rates, and urban migration. This visibility forces reflection on the social costs of demographic change, challenging policymakers and citizens alike to consider what is lost when communities dissolve. Nagoro's story invites broader questions about the future of rural Japan and the preservation of cultural diversity amid modernization. Will targeted revitalization efforts succeed, or will more villages face similar fates as Nagoro? Can economic and social policies effectively bridge the gap between urban and rural needs? While answers remain uncertain, Nagoro highlights that demographic shifts are not just about numbers, but about real lives, histories, and identities that risk being erased. The abandoned homes and silent streets speak to the urgent need for thoughtful responses that balance progress with preservation. Ultimately, Nagoro is more than a vanished village. It stands as a living testament to demographic transformation, a sentinel reminding us that behind every statistic lies a community and culture at stake.